Hello, Snackers. This is Kareem Iskander. I'm a developer advocate with Cisco DevNet.
Hey Snackers, Matt DiNapoli here, one of the managers of developer advocacy with Cisco DevNet.
Welcome to episode 7 of DevNet Snack Minute. If you don't know what Snack Minute is your weekly 10-minute all things DevNet, giving you a quick, fun way to learn about Cisco APIs, coding, and just some cool stuff here that we do at DevNet.
Yeah, and the cool thing that we're doing at DevNet today, or the cool thing we're talking about, is SecureX. And this is our very first episode where we have a guest speaker. We are pleased to have Christopher Vandermeide, who is also a developer advocate with the DevNet program, that is going to introduce us to SecureX and some developer tools that we can use in integrating with SecureX. So, Christopher, the first thing that I'm sure everyone wants to know is, what is SecureX? Can you give us a clue into that?
Sure, Matt. Thanks. So SecureX, it can be a little bit difficult to answer because it's actually a platform. So I don't really see SecureX as one thing or one app. It's a real platform, and the goal of SecureX is to combine and connect all of the various security products that you might have in your environment. And that is both Cisco and third party as well.
That's cool. What from the Cisco side, what kind of security products does SecureX help us connect?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you can actually see my SecureX dashboard right over here. And I'll walk you through it briefly so that you know a couple of the most important features. So what you have here is the dashboard with all kinds of tiles. These tiles are configurable. And as you can see here, I have M for endpoints. If I were to scroll down, I have others as well, which aren't correctly configured right now. But I have a couple of others here. For example, the web security appliance. If I look on my left, I see all of the integrations that I've configured. So I have M for endpoints, Cisco Defense Orchestrator, email security appliance, Umbrella. I have StealthWatch Cloud, StealthWatch Enterprise. So all kinds of Cisco security solutions are connected. Yeah.
And then when you say connected, what do you mean by that? How are they're integrating all into this platform, and from a dashboard standpoint, or can we perform configurations? What are we looking at there?
Yes, so it's mainly collecting telemetry on the one hand. So what you can do is you can go and configure an integration module, as it's called. And this is, again, both Cisco and non-Cisco. If I were to add a new one, for example, and I were to pick M for endpoints, all you need to do basically is provide API credentials from M for endpoints. And this allows SecureX to grab all of these important alerts from M for endpoints, like, hey, you might have a new compromise on one of your machines. And on the other hand, you can also take control actions. So I can actually, for example, isolate a computer using SecureX without needing to go to the M for endpoints dashboard. So on the back end, it's all done via the APIs, actually.
I have a question for you, Christopher. I know I've looked at SecureX, and I understand as a platform how it plays. What I don't understand, and I'd like you to talk to us about it a little bit, is where's the action orchestrator part plays in the platform itself?
As you can see here, there's a couple of tabs, Kareem. So you have the dashboard, which basically gives you an overview of everything. So this is kind of like a high-level manager summary kind of a thing. It also allows you to cross-launch into your applications. For example, an application can be threat response, but you can also indeed cross-launch into the orchestration piece. And this is, as you mentioned, it's built on top of Action Orchestrator. So Action Orchestrator is something we see in other parts of the Cisco portfolio as well, but they completely integrated it into SecureX. So what you see right here is, for some people might be familiar, and it is actually the dashboard of Action Orchestrator, but then embedded inside of SecureX. So that's where it lives.
So is this where the developer story kind of comes in on SecureX with the Action Orchestrator? Because now we can integrate APIs, we can plug and play, REST calls, we can tie in result sets coming back and pull stuff out. That I presume would be the developer story there, right?
Yeah, you're totally right. So this is where you can create your own workflows, and your workflows can be very simple. So I can, for example, create a new one. And the cool thing of this is you can indeed touch on basically any API that you want. There's all kinds of pre-built ones in here. For example, M for endpoints. I could drag and drop an action in here to isolate a host. And as I mentioned before, when a host is compromised, meaning it might be hacked, you might want to isolate it from the network to make sure that no data is stolen or that it doesn't infect other hosts. So this is literally how easy it is. All you need to give it is a connector ID, which you can grab from, for example, this action here. So with this, I can actually give it an IP address or a host name, and it will grab that ID. That I can pass along here, and that's it. So you can very quickly create your own integrations and automations using the orchestrator without having to write actual code, which is quite interesting.
And Christopher, so let's assume, you know, I'm looking to adopt SecureX in my infrastructure, and I'm looking to automate all of this. Can you tell us a little bit, like, where do I get started? How do I learn about Action Orchestrator? What do I have as far as assets for me to help me with all of that, please?
Yep, sure. So first of all, just to mention, the Action Orchestrator itself isn't where it stops. SecureX itself is also completely built API first. So you can actually click on the question mark. You can find information on orchestration, but also on the APIs. And as I mentioned, everything is built on top of APIs. However, we can go a lot further than that. So you can, what we have built on DevNet is, if you know the Security Dev Center, which I hope you do. If you don't, it's quite easy to find it. You go to developer.cisco.com/site/security, or you just go to it from the menu here. Now, what we've done is we've added a lot of SecureX resources because we know that developers and everyone wants to basically get started with this. So here there are some explanations and some blogs, but what we also did is we built 2 more websites that go further into detail on threat response, which we didn't talk about yet, and the orchestration. And we also have a learning track. So if I were to click on this, it brings you to a learning track that explains you all about and teaches you all about SecureX orchestration and SecureX threat response. So you can get started probably the easiest way by doing a lab as such.
So cool. So tell me about the sandbox environments, because usually if we have a learning lab, we have sandbox environments tied to that. Do we have a sandbox for SecureX?
Yeah, so right now there's a couple of options, and actually when you go into the first section of the lab, it will explain you that. But there is indeed a complete environment that doesn't require you to have your own. So it's a complete sandbox environment that allows you to play around with the APIs and the orchestrator without having to build your own, and more importantly, without having you to work in your own production environment. Because if you're going to play around, you want to have some kind of an environment where you can break stuff. So this is provided in the first section of the lab.
You mentioned threat response a minute ago. Did you want to dig deeper into that?
Yeah, sure, we can. So as I mentioned, you can launch into here. So SecureX itself here in the dashboard only gives you like high-level details, but SecureX threat response allows you to dig deeper into security incidents. I can think of a very simple example. For example, I can go and type in internetbadguys.com, but however, I can search for basically any text. So I can just copy paste any blob of text that contains observables, as we call it, like a domain. and click on investigate, threat response will parse out all the good pieces of information, and it will start to query all of my modules. And I explained earlier how you connect those modules. It's usually an API connection, and it's now querying all of my modules and asking it, hey, what do you know about this observable? And as you can see, it's now enriching. And 8 of my modules apparently have an answer for this observable. And quite quickly, I can see this is malicious. And I can see that I actually have a target in my environment which reached out to this domain. So from here, I can actually take response actions as well. And the cool thing of this is that I actually also have can add my SecureX orchestration workflows as a response action on top of the regular ones that are already there. Yeah, I can hit this demo, and what it actually does, as you will see here, is it will actually send something, the observable that I just clicked to a demo room I have. This is a quick demo I can do, and this is based on a workflow I have over here. I'm going to delete this one, and I'll show you this one. And all it does basically is it sends a message to WebEx Teams, and it grabs as an input the observable that I just added. So all of this is explained in the labs as well, how to do this yourself.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
This is what I wanted to start this by asking our first guest, if you could have any superpower, what power would you have and why?
That's a great question. So obviously, I would like to have more than one. If my superpower could be to have more superpowers, no, just kidding. But I would probably choose to be able to time travel. So both that I can see the cool stuff that is going to happen in a couple of years and maybe even 100 years. But also I'm quite curious into our history, and I would also like to go back and check that out.
That's awesome.
That's an excellent answer. Excellent answer. I like those. Time travel and more superpowers. All right, we'll have to chalk that up to the first on the list. So Christopher, thank you so much for your time today. Snackers, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on DevNet Snack Minute.
All right, thank you.